My name is Amos.
And I'm Martin.
Today we're going to talk about resale versus
New launch.
can buy,
Cannot buy.
First pros that we're going to talk about is immediate move-in. So if you're looking for own stay, should you buy a resale or a new launch? Actually, it all depends on your needs. Every time you're looking at a property to buy or purchase, you have to look at your needs as well. See what your needs are at that point in time, and then you will be able to make a more informed decision on whether resale or new launch. So you can move in immediately if you're buying for own stay. Martin, what do you have to say about that?
Okay, so I would like to add on to his point that actually it really depends on whether you are a more investor buyers or own stay buyers. So for own stay family, you have 2-3 kids, you're not going to wait 3-4 years in the rental unit while the new launch is built, right? So resale will make more sense for you if let's say you're going for a resale unit. Then for people who are maybe a couple or single and you don't mind staying elsewhere while the new launch is built and you go in with the investor mentality, I think new launch will make more sense. What do you think?
I agree. So both points are strongly agreed. So what do you guys think? I think that's the most important. Similar to immediately moving in is if let's say you are an investor buyer and you're looking to buy in the resale market and you're not so much of a new launch fan. So how does that work for you in terms of a pro? For resale, should you purchase a unit in the resale market, what you get is immediate rental income, provided you get a tenant immediately. So the moment you hit completion, you will be able to market your unit out into the rental market. For me, in this current point in time, in this current market, we are not looking at rental as a form of earnings, more of capital preservation. So whatever you throw into the purchase of your resale condominium, you are looking at a capital preservation or an asset preservation per se. Meaning to say your tenant is actually paying you a monthly rental that covers your monthly mortgage, potentially even covering your MCST fees as well.
Wait, so I'll add on to your point, right? So although you do collect the rental immediately, but you do have to start paying your property tax and your MCST immediately as well. So that goes into your cost. Whereas for the new launch portion, there is no need to pay any property tax when it's building, no MCST fees, and your interests are also lower because of the progressive payment scheme that we'll talk about later.
Alright, the second pros that we're going to talk about is larger layout. So if you look at the per square foot, you look at the older resale condominiums, you realize that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bidders, they have generally a larger floor space as compared to newer developments. Why? You can ask us, we will tell you. But before we go into that, maybe Martin can share more about the larger floor plans that we have in the older resale condominiums?
Yeah, so for older resale condominiums, right, you notice that actually a lot of their room size and the living room size are much bigger. The newer floor plans tend to have a smaller room, but the older resale condos do have very large room where you can fit a queen size bed, a study table, or even a vanity table. So I think this is the biggest advantage of a resale condo in terms of the size.
Yep. So if you guys do value space as one of your priorities when you're looking for a home, then maybe a resale could be better for you.
So the third pros for resale condo, you'll definitely be able to see that the prices and the PSF are more affordable compared to new launch condo. So for a similar area, you might be able to get something about 500 to 600 PSF more affordable compared to a new launch.
Yeah, so to add on what Martin shared, if you're comparing about PSF pricing, right, maybe if you look at the current new launch here about 2004, how come resale they are selling at about 1008, 1009? That is because a long time back when the resale condominium was launched as a new launch back then, it was only released at a price of maybe about 1001, 1200 per square foot. As of now, the new launches, they're launching at 2004. In 2012, 2013, and maybe let's say you bought at 1,200 per square foot. Should you enter the resale market as a resale condominium with that age and you're selling at 2,200 PSF, who will buy your condominium? So that's the question, food for thought. So if the pricing has already reached about 1,008, 1,900 PSF, and that's when you're cashing out, you'll still receive maybe about 600 per square foot increment of what you first bought.
The next pro that I think that resale condo gives is the touch and feel. right? Because some of us, we like when we are buying things, like buying a car, we want to be able to touch and feel and see what are the surrounding, the amenities. Because for new launch, we generally only get the artist impression or even just the show flat model, which is it's not the actual thing that we can actually touch and feel lah. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yes, I think that's very important also, because in the market we have two different kind of buyers. One is the one that needs to be tangible. They need to feel, they need to touch, they need to experience before they can actually commit to a unit. Another one would be the foresight buyers, as I would address them as. They can envision themselves living in a space. So for example, a new launch, right? They can envision themselves living in this area, living in this space, just based on the artist's impression alone. So if you fall under the tangible buyer category, maybe a resale unit would be better for you, because you can experience the unit, you can feel the vibes of the unit, the energy of the unit. And if it matches your energy, then it could be the unit that you are actually looking for. Alright, so Martin will be sharing with us the first con of a resale condominium.
Okay, so definitely I think the most logical cons for the resale unit will be older condition. The flat will be more, there will be more renovation required. You need to spend more money as compared to a new launch. Definitely, if let's say the unit is more than 20 years old, you probably need to redo the plumbing or even the electrical systems and stuff like that. And a lot of the existing fixtures may need to go. You need to do quite a bit of hacking. So a lot of costs involved for the renovation. Yeah.
And in today's rising costs in Singapore, renovation costs are actually pretty expensive. In the past, renovation costs, a full renovation would probably cost you maybe about 50 to 70,000, but 50 to 70,000 is your basic renovation cost right now. Okay, if you're going for a more expensive and lavish form of renovation, then it will cost you between 100 to 200,000. So with that being said, should you purchase an older resale condominium, you might be facing a larger cash outlay at the initial start.
And that's something quite important that most people don't realize as well.
Yes.
The renovation cost.
Correct. So a lot of people, when they're buying a resale condominium, they look at their finances, like they say, hey, this is my max purchase price. But seldom you include your renovation costs inside.
Okay, so the next con that we can think of is, of course, if you're buying a leasehold condo, it's gonna be a lesser lease left, and then of course we all know this thing called the lease decay. So you're buying something really old, the value may not be able to appreciate as much as compared to a new something that is much newer, right? Even though you're paying a cheaper price, but the growth is not there anymore.
Correct. So in terms of a new launch, because every resale condominium, right, at one point in time, they were a new launch. So for example, you launch at 1,200 PSF. In the first cycle of sale, in the past, seller stamp duty was also already 4 years. So 4 years down the road, maybe they have increased 300 PSF to 1,500 PSF. And from there, that is your first sale cycle. And then after that, SSD was reduced from 4 years to 3 years, right? So after that, from 1,500 PSF, maybe the second cycle, 3 years later, you increase by maybe about 200 PSF to 1,700 PSF. So from the start, new launch till now, you have comfortably increased 500 PSF, and that's where your property prices will probably remain stagnant. Why? Because for every new launch, they will always reach a peak before they start to stagnate in their pricing. So that is, I think, the point where we are driving at.
Okay, so the next point we like to talk about is also the higher upfront payment for resale, right? Unlike the new launch, which has the progressive payment scheme, for a typical resale, you will have to come out with your 5% cash, 20% down payment, assuming you can get the 75% loan. And all these, once the completion is reached, you have to start paying the property tax, the MCST, and everything. So all in right up. So your upfront cost is very high, coupled with the fact that you need to add on for renovation costs, which we talked about. Yeah.
Alright, so for the first pro of new launch, you're looking at brand new facilities and brand new fittings. Everything is brand new. Something that maybe you don't even see in the resale market before, and it is coming up in the new launch. Why? Because developers have been improving their game year on year. If you notice, and if you have been keeping track of the market, you will notice that new launches, they get better and better in terms of facilities and also floor plans.
So, in terms of facility and fittings, right, I think generally we can notice that in the past 5 years, the new launch fittings have been improving. The quality is much better. In fact, I think the Nava Grove have this infrared ceramic thingy, right, for to cook the thing. So that I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, and that is something that you can look forward to in the new launch. Okay.
And also to add on, like for example, one of the recent projects, instead of regular laminate, they actually improved the quality of the laminate and they replaced it with satin glass that is anti-fingerprint and anti-oil. So I think it's quite cool. It has a very, very nice matte feel, not to mention a very luxurious feel as well.
Okay. So I think the next point we addressed it previously about the progressive payment scheme, which actually helps a lot for the interest lah, because you only pay a portion of the loan that is disbursed is only in portions based on the scope of works that is done so far, and then that helps you save in the interest lah. And I think that is in the minds of a lot of investors out there.
Maybe to dive deeper into the progressive payment scheme, just take note that the only upfront payment that you need to fork out is the 5% booking fee, your buyer stamp duty, and you just have to wait for your loan to be disbursed. Like what Martin mentioned about the progressive payment scheme, the only point that you really need to take note of is the most important point when it hits TOP till CSC. So that is the highest variation of the disbursement of loan with the significant increase in your monthly mortgage. Alright, the next pro that we're going to talk about is strong capital appreciation for new launches. So you are starting at a base price of the developer. In the future, when more units are being sold in the market, they stabilize your pricing for you to exit. Take note, every single seller in the market always wants to earn a profit. How much? That depends on your entry price versus your exit price.
To add on, the other important point is that you are actually buying the same price as your neighbor. So you'll not have a case where you're buying the unit at a much higher price compared to your neighbor. So for a resale, you might be paying a lot more compared to the first owner that paid new launch price. But in new launch, everyone is paying the same price. So that means when everyone exit, everyone wants to exit with a profit. So there is the risk of someone selling lower than you is very, very low.
Right. So for the cons of new launch, it takes roughly about 4 to 5 years for a new launch to be fully built and attain the TOP status, where you can collect your keys and move in. So for buyers that are looking for a place to stay and immediately move in, new launch might not be for you.
And you also have to consider the rental. If let's say you need to have a place in meantime, and then all the rental costs can cost quite a bit over the 4 to 5 years.
However, if you are a young couple who are still currently living with your parents, or you have a place to stay without paying exorbitant rent, then new launch could still be a viable choice.
The next con is that new launch units tend to be smaller as compared to resale units. So in terms of square footage, it's smaller, and in terms of the sizing of the room, a good layout could be only possibly you can only fit up to a queen size bed. So compared to a resale unit, it's much smaller.
That being said, the previous point that we talked about, one of the pros is that the developers have been improving in the design and layout. So even though the units may be smaller, they could possibly give you more efficiency in terms of placing your furniture, your bed, moving around.
Yep.
Yes.
And then there's no wasted space such as planter, bay window,
Correct.
huge aircon ledge and stuff like
Yes.
that. Right. Next con that we talk about is, of course, you generally need to expect to pay a higher PSF and higher price for a new launch product. Whereas this is actually quite reasonable given that land prices has been going up over the years and developers have to charge the extra for the extra land cost that they have been buying in there.
So that's very true what Martin mentioned. If you're looking at the cost of the new launches now, you also have to take into consideration the land price. So maybe in the past, long time ago, land price maybe 300 PSF per plot ratio. However, in the recent launches, for example, the upcoming Faber residence is already at 900 per square foot per plot ratio. So the higher the purchase of the land, the higher the cost of the new launch, because you have to take into consideration the building costs, construction costs, purchasing of all the fittings, the overall cost, And you also have to know that developers do need to make money in terms of survival in the industry. Yeah.
So overall, should you choose resale or new launch?
This is a really burning question that people always ask me. Resale or new launch? What do you think, Martin?
For me personally, I think it depends whether you are an investor or own stay buyer. So I'll feel that the resale will meet the needs of an own stay buyer more, and a new launch will meet the needs for an investor more. What do you think?
So just to sum it all up, resale or new launch, can buy, cannot buy, can buy, always can buy one. Because the supply is always there and the demand for everyone living in Singapore is always there as well. So it really depends on your goals, your needs at that current point in time, or even in the near future. Are you looking to find a nice home that you can live in forever? Or are you purchasing with the intent to sell for capital appreciation to grow your assets?